We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday. I'm taking a sigh of relief. I've done four shows by myself. I am fucking winded. I'm not really winded, but for me, it's more fun when somebody is on the show with me. Frankly, I get bored with myself fairly quickly. But today we have Jace, who is from Texas. Opportune time to have him on with all the things going on in Texas and all the things going on throughout the country. It's been fucking nuts as of late. Jace, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for giving me some time to catch my breath.
Well, hey man, yeah, because man, I know you've been busy because old soul wasn't on it, and I forget his name. Ed wasn't on last week, man. So you've been really towing the line, man. I was like, man, I need to step up for Mike.
Somebody's got to.
Not that you need it.
I don't usually reach out to people because, I'm here every day. So it's whenever you have time to do it.
Oh yeah,
So I'm glad you reached out, and actually Will reached out. He'll be on tomorrow. So,
cool.
between the two of you, I got to do maybe 10 minutes total.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I just wish both of us would learn how to express ourselves more because we kind of hold back too much.
I hate having to pull this out of you, especially you and Will. It's so hard to drag information out of you. But what the hell's going on down in Texas? I heard somebody come up to me, and people are feeling even stronger that Ted Cruz is going to lose. Are you hearing anything like that?
I'm hearing that too. I've been seeing a lot of the there's a big surge in voting, and you can tell that the Republicans are kind of scared. Not so much Abbott. I haven't seen Abbott really involved in anything, but our Attorney General, he I think I told you last time, Paxton, he actually sent something out to. It wasn't a ballot. It wasn't sending ballots out. It was just an application to register to vote. He
Right.
wanted to stop that, but the Bear County, said they believed that they read the ruling that it was their right, and that's you have a bunch of lawyers, they all see law the different way. By me and you, we'll see it the same, but if you're
Right.
paid, you see it any damn way you want to. Well, that happened, and then the lawyer says, "Well, no, they're already been mailed out. It's too late." But the Republicans are going off this narrative about immigrants, or they call them down here illegals. And I mean, you can kind of think about it. We've all done something illegal, so we're all in our lives, so we're all in the same boat. And if you look in God's eyes, if you believe in that sort of thing, it's just a horrible name. I never liked it. I'm migrants, you know what I mean? It's just people that
Right.
are not here legally, and which has never been proven. I mean, anytime they do an investigation into voter fraud, it's usually a Republican,
Right.
and
Right.
there was some lady here in Texas that got thrown in jail because she was I don't think she was a felon, but she voted. Go figure, right? A felon voting. That still happens in Florida. But she evidently made a mistake or something like that, and they prosecuted her.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's some kind of thing here. It's just like the justice is just it's not even to people. And they're just on this they're just such a down here in Texas has always been that way. There's other words they call people from different countries that we won't use here because we're both gentlemen. And it's just I heard that word my whole life, and it's and I'm not going to get into it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just ugly. And I hear people that are Hispanics say that, and these are people that claim to be Christians. And it's just like, Jesus was one of the most woke people, if you want to get there, that they even crucified him because of it.
Right.
And it's just that they're on this thing to where these poor people that are now, it's like you're seeing, like in Springfield, Ohio, where you're seeing legal immigrants getting attacked. It's not enough to go after, and that's exactly what I keep telling my Hispanic friends is like, Trump looks at you, he goes, "Yeah, I'll take your vote, but I'm going to deport your ass."
Right.
I mean, it's how he's treating the legal ones. That's exactly what he's doing. And you have somebody named Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. You know what I mean? They have Latin, descent. I mean, I think Marco's more Cuban and Ted's from Canada. But it's like these people just go along with it, and the people that vote for this bullshit go along with it too. I mean, I see people down here, and it's like I look at them as like, how are you voting Republican when you're a minority? And
Right.
of course, they go to me as like, well, how the hell are you not voting Republican since you're white? And it's like,
Well,
because I'm fucking thinking.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, let me
Ted
ask you
Cruz.
this. What do you tell me about where we're at with Ted Cruz and tell me about the climate in Texas? I mean, there was a long time when we would never think the prospect of Texas turning blue, but people keep talking like it's going to happen. And I'm not sold yet. I don't know enough about Texas to make that kind of statement. But what are you seeing, being that you live in Texas?
I think Texas is blue. San Antonio's blue. Houston's blue. Dallas is blue. A lot of the rural areas, like down south, or the Republicans are starting to now how spend money down there because their people are in trouble. Their clients are in trouble, and that's why Paxton, they go after the bigger metro cities. I mean, our mayor here in San Antonio was part of the he's actually one of my coworkers told me that he's a Marxist, and I'm like, really? He's a good shot? I don't think he got the joke,
Probably
but
not.
he Ron Norberg, and I think his last term is coming up, and he's been a real good mayor. I mean, we have a history of great mayors. Henry Cisneros,
Yeah,
the Bill Clinton of his time. We'll just leave it
right.
at that. Great politician, but not off the field. And yeah, I think Colin Allred may be the one that doesn't. He may be like Kamala in the fact that he may be not disliked enough, like Hillary was, like even Biden to a point. Beto had a lot of baggage for one thing he said, and he talked about this unarming
Taking the
this
guns.
yeah, taking the guns away from the police. Yeah, and even though you see the Republicans do it in real time,
Right.
and defend the police or defund the police, defend the police. Yeah, I've beaten them over the head with a flag in January 6th.
Well, now
But Beto,
Kamala's gone the other way. Said if you come in my house, I'm going to fucking shoot you. So that's confusing the
yeah,
Republicans at this point.
she's taken that away. But honestly, a lot of Democrats have, I know you had your like Michael Dukakis getting on the tank and
Yeah.
doing stuff, and there's always photo opportunities. Ted Cruz is like that. He seems like a what they call him down here, a drugstore cowboy,
Yeah.
an urban cowboy. That John Travolta made that movie real popular. But I think Colin Allred is popular enough. I think he's doing it his way. I still don't think the Republicans moderates are going to vote for him as much as he thinks. I think what wins it for him is Kamala. She may not win Texas, but she may win Texas. And if she wins Texas, there ain't no way he's going to lose Texas. And she may
No.
win Texas because of him, because people may be going out to vote for him to put her over, or vice versa. She may be bringing in people and they vote for him because they already know how Ted Cruz is. Ted Cruz is all these. I mean, for the last year, I've been seeing like all red commercials. He talks about he went to Baylor, which is probably the third known school after Texas Longhorns and Texas Aggies. How do I find affinity people from Baylor? Baylor's a great school, but he went to Baylor. I have a lot of friends that went to Baylor, and he actually played for the Titans, which used to be the
Yeah.
Houston Oilers back in the day.
Yeah.
And he's real spoken. He's real nice. He's doing commercials with his wife, and he's talking about he's got these border agents like what some of the Republicans do about having these border guards, running campaign commercials with him and giving him endorsements. You got some of these, these Barney Fifes, that's, what a lot of them are. But, these are actually border guards that are actually sheriffs that are actually giving their endorsement to Colin Allred.
Right. Right.
And it seems like, I know Trump does that. He had like some people that I don't know if they were real guards or not, but they were saying, well, that you can't have them at a campaign event. But evidently you can have them on a campaign commercial because both sides use them.
Yeah.
And then you have this other side, and you have Ted Cruz running his now, and his commercials aren't about facts. He's doing that whole transgender thing. I mean,
Yeah.
he's showing You know,
That's a bad train to jump on. That's just not
yeah,
going to help them.
that's a bad train to jump on, but they kind of fence themselves in because there's this other CPAC or keep the Packers. It's some right wing thing that they have this young lady and God bless her. Her sister was murdered. Was like raped and murdered by migrants that weren't here
Right.
legally, and they're trying to put that back on the. I guess Colin was involved, and I don't know much about this about the catch and release because there's so much crap that comes out. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. I haven't done my research, but evidently he supported it. But you don't see Ted Cruz touching that because they didn't want to pass that border bill because Trump didn't want them to do it.
Right. Right.
You
Well, you
don't
know what?
see you don't see the Republicans down here. You see the PACs doing it. You see the special like they're running that stuff. But what what Ted Cruz is worried about is, I mean, the hardest thing is about going to the bathroom or something. It's that whole thing.
Right.
I'm surprised he's not going against schools for performing surgeries like their boy Trump says they're doing.
Right. I think, what always amazes me, they'll come up with these stories from here and there regarding migrants who killed a white American. And it is a tragedy when that happens. And yes, it can happen. It can be a migrant. If you look at the numbers, it isn't mostly migrants doing it. It's American citizens doing that. But if you're going to promote that, if I'm a Democrat, I'm going to do kind of what they're doing. You're going to talk about immigrants murdering Americans. Let's throw up the number of women who have died or become seriously ill because of the Roe v. Wade decision and the fact that doctors cannot work on certain women until they're near death, basically. Um, they want to talk about people or young women that are dying. Let's talk about the ones that aren't getting the care they need for reproductive health.
Yeah, and there's some sheriffs that are like this tracking thing that they're going through these counties to get an abortion. Like, say you got to drive through a certain county to get to another state to get an abortion. They're wanting them to like monitor that, and there's some pushback from sheriffs about that. So hey, that's not my job. And I know there's that commercial running out about that guy and his daughter. They're going through some thing and the cop stops them and
Yeah,
says, "Where are you going?" And it's I've heard it on podcasts. It's very disturbing is lack of a word. It's this is the same party that wanted you not to touch their guns and their Bibles.
right,
And when Obama said that, they're said that about that they get scared about this stuff like that. He was right on target.
right,
Because I remember him saying that, and well, how dare he say that? He's right. And the Republicans know that too because they're trying to scare you. There's always a caravan on the way. There's always, something in the water. There's always, only one person can fix it. I mean, the Republicans have been doing scare tactics forever. And I'm thinking and I'm hoping that people are getting tired of it and they're wanting to do that whole let's go back to being a quote unquote, and I know a lot of people in this audience especially will say they don't exist, a normal Republican. I think the Republican name has been stained by so much. I mean, you think about the greatness of you can argue about Reagan had his faults, and I'm not here to defend him, but you can't argue about Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt, and Teddy Roosevelt had his problems too.
or even McCain.
McCain too. McCain was the last great Republican. I will always
Yeah,
say that.
I would agree with you.
And the Republican Party died with McCain and Lindsey, along with Lindsey Graham's conscience. And I will never. I'm ashamed to have voted for Bush. I was young and dumb. I regret voting for Romney. I voted for Bill Clinton my first time, which I'm proud of, even though he has extracurricular activities that Bill being Bill.
He ain't no
And
P. Diddy, I tell you that.
well, according to some Trump folks and some of the stuff I've seen, Hillary's the mastermind, and they're going to kill him in his, they're going to kill him in his pen. But I voted for Bush. I voted for Clinton, and I voted for both Clintons actually. And I've never voted for Trump, and I would like to put that on my tombstone.
Yeah.
I'm a never Trumper. I voted for Biden very happily, and I'll very proudly vote for Kamala and Kim and Tim. But what Lincoln did is he did something that he got rid of a practice that should have never happened. If I mean, we both know that,
Flavor, yeah.
you know, and but a lot of people want to bring that shit back, and a lot of people are fine with that, and you're seeing them act like that because Trump gave them. It's always been there, like you said. It's always been there because I grew up with it. I'm 52 years old. I've seen people that praise Jesus on Sunday and say something else afterwards over lunch. And it's just always been there. But Trump made it okay to do it because he was there for them and he's a self made man. And it's if he can do it, I can do it. Well, a lot of people are finding out no, Trump's ways of getting away with stuff are going away. But that party, and speaking to somebody who used to be a Republican, that party is going to have to change its name because the Republican name is always going to be it's going to go back to the Whigs. They're going to be they're going to be so associated with one thing that and that's going to be Trump with the Republicans that they're going to have to change their name.
Well, here's the deal. When people talk about the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, let me explain this to you. The Republican Party under Lincoln is vastly different from the party under McCain, which is vastly different from the party under Trump. There are three entirely different parties. They go after different things, and that's why I always have trouble with people saying, "Well, Lincoln was a Republican." Not like you, motherfucker. He's nothing like Donald Trump or the whole MAGA aspect. And you talked about the slavery issue and how some people actually want it back. This dumb fuck in North Carolina, Mark Robinson, lieutenant governor, who is a black man, said that he thought bringing back slavery would be good and he'd like to own a couple. And I saw a meme out there from somebody with that quote, "I'd own a couple too." And the meme says, "Who said we'd let you?" And that, that's what's ridiculous. I don't know if they're ignorant or they're just trying to create some kind of shock value in this, but this is a huge problem for the Republicans. There is no consistency. And now the MAGA Republican of Trump is going to have to change. It's going to have to be something different. I don't care what any Republican says, whether you think of yourself as MAGA or not. If you stood by silently or supported Donald Trump, you're fucking MAGA. You're a racist. If you support a racist, then you must be a racist. If you're strong enough to stand up and say enough is enough, like Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, that's a different deal. These people won't have Kinzinger and Cheney will not have the stink of Donald Trump on them, but a lot of people in that party will. So they're going to have to just go back and recoup and reimagine themselves and come up with something different.
It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine on Facebook, and she posted a picture of of these shelves when they're all barren, and she goes, "You're really better. Are you better when you're off when you were 4 years ago?" And I saw that picture, and I got it, and you were talking about yesterday's show about how Stephanie Rule brought that up to Kamala, like, well, they were going through a pandemic. I mean, what the media doesn't do their homework on is that we were already headed there. I mean, it was like he was on his way to. I mean, the Republicans don't bring in any money; they have to give it to all their rich friends. There's a reason why Democrats have to fix everything. When these come in, you look at, and it should have been this should have been a thing for me when because I was paying full attention to when Obama took over I mean, they had to literally put this country on life support to keep it going.
Right.
I mean, in the stuff he did, he got so much shit for what was that, cash for clunkers? I mean, just to get the shit going. I mean, he saved the auto industry too.
Yeah.
And you just and people forget that. And you look at Trump as like, and he's still winning these polls. I know they don't matter, and people, it's kind of aggravating.
It's all bullshit.
People are getting aggravated. Is like, it's like, well, people trust him more on the economy, and it's like, yeah, but that's not the case. I think I think he gets that pass because he's a businessman. But him handling shit. I mean, I told my friend too. She goes, yeah, I lost a lot of friends, a lot of friends and family to COVID because of that, SOB. And she wasn't talking about, Obama. She was talking about the guy that took over after him. But
right.
I'm too nice to say something like that, Mike. You know me well.
Yeah, I'm
And
not.
but I was telling them, well, what about all those people that were in those trucks? Those trucks to like that were stacked up, all those like in New York where they all those cooler trucks they used to have, those semi full. I mean, how do we forget that?
I don't know.
I
I
mean,
don't
and
know.
that's why I don't think it's close. That's why I don't think people. I know 4 or 5 people that died from COVID that
I
shouldn't
do
have died
too.
from COVID.
I do too. Yeah.
And if we
What?
had had a Hillary in there or a Biden in there, I don't think we would have lost as many. I know we wouldn't have lost that many people.
Well, here's the thing. When people talk about polls, I don't trust polls. It's just not me liking polls. The polls are notoriously wrong. And the media, whether we're talking about left side or right side, notoriously, they fucking lie or mislead us. So if you know the polls are wrong and they aren't honest and the media isn't honest, why the fuck are you believing it? Look at the facts. The fundraising. Kamala is outraising Donald Trump by 4 times. That tells you a little something about support. Um,
She's raised over one. She's raised over $1 billion in the last 45. How long has it been? Like 3 or 4 months that she's been. I mean,
right.
my God, if that was Trump, my God, dude, you couldn't get that guy to quit talking about it. I mean, he wouldn't even campaign. If the Republicans had that kind of stuff, there's the reason why they're worried.
You
And
know, you know what the polls don't tell you either? The polls don't talk about the 300,000 or 400,000 young people that registered after Taylor Swift told them to do it. The
yeah,
untold, I mean, we're seeing polls too that women are voting for Kamala like 70% to 30% over over Donald Trump. So if you've got 70% of the women or even 60% of the women, how is it even if that's 50% of the country? It doesn't make any mathematical sense.
well, I haven't seen a poll yet that has him over 50%, but I've seen quite a few with her having
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah.
And the media forgets about too, and they probably don't forget about, they don't want to talk about it. He couldn't even get his own freaking party to vote for him. He had
No.
Nikki Haley, and that wasn't because Nikki Haley's some great, second coming of, Joan of Arc or whatever. She was an alternative to Trump. And honestly, if I was a Republican, I would rather vote for Nikki Haley. And there's a reason why I won't vote for Nikki Haley or Liz Cheney is because they don't represent me.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that's one of the biggest things is that they're underestimating. And I credit you all the time. And I say this on TikTok responses. And hey, man, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, my buddy Mike has said this. People underestimate how much Trump is disliked.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the
I
biggest
didn't like
factor.
the guy. I didn't like the guy as a Republican. And when he became, because when I was a Republican, voting Republican, he was a Democrat.
Right.
And I always thought he was a Democrat. Oh, he's a Democrat. He hangs out with Bill and Hillary. He's a Democrat. And it's like, and it's funny. It's like anybody that's done that. It's like P. Diddy, Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump. You see him with all these celebrities, with Trump. But all of a sudden, boy, no, man. But he's Bill Clinton's guy. He posted that fake picture of P. Diddy and Kamala together. I mean, it's like they have this like. I mean, it's like you tell them the truth, and that's why I don't even like try to argue anymore
Well,
because it's like
let's talk
it.
about Trump and P. Diddy. There's plenty of pictures of P. Diddy
Oh
and
yeah,
Donald Trump. On Apprentice show, somebody made a comment about P. Diddy, and Donald Trump said, "Well, I like P. Diddy. He's a good guy." Donald Trump had a couple of modeling agencies that brought in young girls from overseas. Jeffrey Epstein was involved. P. Diddy
mm-hmm.
was kind of tied. You know, Donald Trump can't walk away from the shit he's done. And once the election is over, he's going to have no protection. He's going to absolutely be decimated with evidence and pictures and video and stuff. When people stop walking on eggshells around him, he's going to get crucified. And people will love doing it. They love raising people up, but they love even more slamming that fucker down to the ground. And that's what's going to happen to Donald Trump.
Yeah. I saw some creator, I can't remember it was, But they were saying like if Trump gets his ass kicked as bad as both of us think he's going to, I mean, I think it's going to be more of a landslide because I remember the Reagan
Yeah.
Mondale thing, watching that as a kid, and just like wow. And I don't know if it'll be that big. It could be, but I think it'll be up there with Obama numbers, which pretty much shut Fox News up because I remember when he beat Romney, and it was just like what?
Yeah.
It was in 12, not 08, which was even bigger. You're going to see the Republicans. They did this after 2020, after 2020, and maybe it was you that said it. Maybe it was the creator I follow the most on TikTok, Mike, the rational boomer. And it was saying like in 2022, they started to do that. And in 2020, after January 6th, they started doing that. And Kevin McCarthy got on his broom and flew down to Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
And I think it's going to get big. They're going to have no choice because I think they're going to finally realize that, MAGA's a big part of that, but it's not what it was in 16. It's not what it was in 20.
No.
Because he's had like JD Vance, I think, is one of his nominees that won, and of course, Paxton, but it's Texas, so
Yeah.
no surprise, and Abbott. So I mean, he said that something about he'll move. Everybody says he's going to flee to Russia, but shit, he'll probably come down here. So I'm going to have to move up to Minnesota with you, Mike, and put through a few winters.
Yeah. Well, the
My
winters
property
suck.
value is going to go down like a motherfucker if that guy moves down here.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I get a lot of people coming to my page and whining and worried about Georgia with all the bullshit going on there. And I always tell them, look, there's a bunch of Kamala hired 10 times as many lawyers to be working on that stuff. But put it this way, if by some crazy possibility that Texas turns blue, or the other one is Florida. I think Florida has a better chance of turning blue just because of all the shit going on, the abortion question on the ballot, marijuana on the ballot. People seem to be fed up in Florida being run by Republicans and having it go into shit. We got a fucking hurricane hitting or already hit by the time people see this. And I did a TikTok and I said, listen, we feel for you down there. We know this is going to be devastating for the people in the path of this hurricane. I don't know that you can count on Ron DeSantis for anything, but I can promise you this, regardless of who you vote for, Joe Biden will be there with FEMA or whoever else they need to take care of you. You aren't going to be left hanging like you would be by the Republicans. And I'll tell you what I think they should do. And this sounds very opportunist and this sounds very political for a tragic situation. When that's done and Biden's working on a way to fix it, he needs to send Kamala down there for a couple days. So she's there showing the compassion she has for people and delivering some help to these people. That'll go a long way in Florida.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen because honestly, I saw Biden was on The View. I don't watch The View. I just saw it on TV. But they had him on The View. I guess it was yesterday. And you don't hear much from Biden. That's why you hear Trump. Who's running the country? Biden's running the country. Who do you see out there all the time? It's Kamala.
Yep.
And it's like, and I guess that, like we talked about last time, Biden got a lot of crap for not having her prepared. Well, he proved those people wrong because she's prepared. She's ready. She had a little bit of problem with her talking, but she was speaking at those rallies and she has the women. And I think, and I heard somebody say that, I do listen to a lot of people, don't I? I heard somebody say that, a lot of these white women are going to tell their husband, hey, I'm voting for Trump, but they're not going to be able in that booth to know, they're not going to know that.
No.
Hell, I doubt Melania votes for him. I mean, she may want that to get the payday to get out of there, and it's just, and I mean, and honestly, if I was like a spouse, I mean, you talk about the person giving up a lot of shit, but you talk about their spouses giving up, having to give a lot of shit up. And speaking of that, the second, I think, what's it called? The second husband, Doug.
Yeah.
He was in town this last Friday. I got a text from the Democratic Coalition, like the local one, like offering me, like I could, for like, of course, donate or something like that, or I could volunteer and to to attend. It wasn't, wasn't those like, well, it's like $12,000 a plate dinners. It's like, man, if I pay for one of those fuckers, I better get, seconds and thirds. But,
Yeah, no shit.
but, he was here in San Antonio, and San Antonio and Austin are pretty close. And, they evidently, I think in like one day or a night or something, they raised like $1 million. And, that ain't, of course, according to somebody like a Trump, that ain't nothing, but, not a lot of fucking money in, 24 hours.
Right.
It's probably from, small time voters. It's probably not from, Elon Musk probably didn't write a check. I mean, he's got a lot, he gets a lot of money from the big donors, but, it's like you said, the small donors, it more number.
It's about the votes
Yeah.
per dollar.
Yeah.
Kamala's kicking his ass.
And they were here, and I got a picture of my friend texted me. My friend Laura, who listens all the time, I turned her on to the show. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Her son sent me her a picture of the. It was with Doug, Beto on one side, in the middle, Willie Nelson. And if you know anything about Texas, Willie Nelson's you're Democrat, Republican, you love Willie Nelson.
Right.
I mean. And he's not, he is just say the Snoop Dogg of his day.
He kind of was, yeah.
Yeah, he was Snoop Dogg before Snoop Dogg was, and and they write songs about him saying they'll never smoke with him again, and it ain't Marlboros. So, and I think that happened a lot of it too. But you have that, you have that base here. That if they and Beto, Beto gets a lot of shit, but he's been registering a lot of people to vote. And Beto said it, I'm out here getting these kids to vote, getting these kids registered to vote. The Democrats don't tell you have to vote. They're not like Republicans that give you to drive buses and beer, to the things they accuse Democrats of doing. Because I remember one time someone telling me, well, did they drive you? Did they buy you beer and cigarettes to go vote? Goes, no, but I'm up for that, back in the older days. But then again, I was still a Republican. But it's like they get you to do that, and they try to stop with, Paxton. We talked earlier about them trying to register the vote. They see the groundswell. And I think, and I'll say this at the end, Colin's done his part. Kamala's done her part. Beto's done his part. Stacey Abrams, probably in Georgia's done her part. The people down in, chasing laws down in Florida. But if we don't do our part, none of that matters.
Right.
And what you're seeing a lot of now is what you predicted before, is that, you're going to see as we get closer, you're going to still see the thing where they're trying to make it a horse race. Like at all these polls last week, she's up by 7. She's up and all this stuff. Then you had one poll come out over the weekend. It was a New York Times poll, and New York Times is worthless. They will admit, they're probably in league with Fox News now, which may not be a thing if Murdoch's sons get his ways and they can take the keys away from daddy and, put him in, timeout. But they had that one poll, and you just, and Democrats, oh my God.
Yeah.
He was doing so good. Oh my God. But it's a one poll. It's an outlying poll, but you still have these other polls where she's up like by 7 in some states.
Right.
And she's having an effect down ballot, because I read the thing today, and I know we're talking polls, but if they're going to bring them up, we need to talk about them, because it's still an indication of trends, as they say.
Right.
Have you heard about Larry Hogan? That
I have not.
Like he's getting the lady that she's the incumbent, I guess, of what Maryland he's running for, and he's a real popular candidate. And he's one of the people that, that stood up to Trump, but, then again, Trump endorsed him. He didn't want it. She's beating him by like 40, the incumbent, and forgive me for not knowing her name, 51 to 40.
Well, here's the thing. If you're Larry Hogan, he was kind of in the mix during 9/11, because I think Nancy Pelosi called him at Maryland to try to get some help, because he couldn't get help from Donald Trump and the National Guard. And he did stand up to Donald Trump. But if you're Larry Hogan and you stood up to Donald Trump and you run as a Republican, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? At least half the people in your party hate your guts because you stood up to Donald Trump. He should get beaten pretty handily. And I don't think he's a bad guy, but I'd rather have a Democrat than a Republican, even a good Republican.
But what does that go back to, Mike? It's abortion. He's
Yeah.
not pro-choice.
Right.
And I hear these people like Lindsey Graham, who's probably never been close to we won't go there, is trying to tell women how to run their lives. And
Let's just say that Lindsay would have fit in well with the P Diddy group if he had been younger and a rapper.
yeah, if you ever, and I won't go there. They call him Ladybug for something, and it's just when you find out why, you just won't sleep at night. So if you Google it after I just said that, don't thank me.
Yeah,
Okay,
I read that story, and I have to give the disclaimer now. If
no,
you're
no.
watching this podcast and you're eating breakfast or lunch, we're sorry. We should have given you a warning, assuming you've read that article. Jesus. Yeah, that's not
But
a
they,
sight I like to have.
but I try to bring the best I can to the show, Mike.
You do. It's all class all day when Jace is here.
um,
Not like
but
not like I'm the epitome of class either. So it fits right in real well.
I had class once when I was in college.
Right. There you go.
Um, yeah, but they're trying to say, oh, it's not a thing. It's not a thing. Like they said in 2022 wasn't a thing. This is going to be the first widespread election that they're going to see, and I'm confident about the White House. I'm confident about the House, but the only thing that is, and I know that I shouldn't be, but the Democrats just have more to defend, and never underestimate the power of stupid people.
Yeah.
And all this, a lot of this stuff. It can be done, but I think that, like you said, like if they can pick up Florida and Texas,
Who
they
cares about
can lose.
Georgia?
They can lose West Virginia, but
Yeah.
then again, Manchin coming out saying he's not going to vote for Kamala, that may go against him. And
Yeah.
it's like him and Sinema were like the two. They try to act like if you have the majority in something, the majority rules.
Right.
You
Unless you
know,
have turncoats in the motherfucker like Cinema
yeah,
and Mansion.
yeah. And it's like, why have a filibuster? Because you're letting the minority party do it. And it's like Moscow Mitch said it today that if they win the House and Senate and they get rid of that filibuster, it's over for Republicans. And
Yeah.
it's not because the Democrats are going to come out and lock them in a room and never let them vote. They're going to pass legislation, and they're gonna pass legislation. They're gonna codify what probably do something better than Roe versus Wade, because this
Yeah.
shouldn't happen again. They're gonna expand the Supreme Court or impeach them for justices. I mean, that's why he didn't let Merrick Garland on that bench,
Right.
because the Republicans are about obstruction. They're not about policy, and that's why Trump could have a hologram of Ronald Reagan next to him and have Reagan's brain in it. And Reagan still couldn't defend the Republicans because they have nothing to stand on.
Right.
I mean, that they're all, there's an old wrestling saying, you're all fluff and no stuff. And
Right.
that's exactly what the Republicans are. And it's just like they keep running Trump and expecting the same results.
Right.
It's like, Sarah Palin, you can't put lipstick on a pig. She was 100% fucking right about that. And she had to know that she wrote autobiography when she said that.
Right.
It's
And that's
like,
all the Republicans have been doing, putting lipstick on pigs, and they keep losing. I don't know what it's going to take to get them to understand that this might be the wrong path.
yeah, but Mitch McConnell is right. But Mitch McConnell could have stopped Donald Trump years ago, had him in prison before he insulted his wife.
Yeah.
And the Republicans may be a different party now with the Liz Cheney and running against Kamala. I still think Kamala would win, because I think the Republicans' way of
Oh, no
thinking
question.
is very outdated, because I grew up that way, and I remember that they didn't like dancing. They didn't like, they didn't like, going to the movies and doing all this stuff. It's because it's like they didn't believe, they're almost one step up from the Amish. And I know you know who Amish are, because I'm sure they have them in Minnesota.
Yeah, they have some in Minnesota, a lot in Wisconsin. Somebody said, was it Lindsey Graham that said Kamala Harris, if they get the House and the Senate, they're going to bust the filibuster and codify Roe v. Wade. And he was doing that to make Republicans scared. And I'm thinking, that's exactly what I wanted to fucking do. The filibuster should have been gone a long time ago. It's antiquated. It's just a way for people to not do anything. The
Yep.
filibuster is not in the Constitution. It's some bullshit that politicians came up with so they don't have to make a final fucking decision.
And I think if the filibuster is gone and they can start passing legislation, and you don't like that legislation, maybe get your ass your ass and go and run. And we get more you and me's in Congress than these career politicians, because they can do all this stuff, but what they also need to do is term limits. Because if Biden and the president can have 2 term limits, then Congress sure as hell should have. I mean, having a Dianne Feinstein, she was a great woman, but man, she was up there way too long. And Pelosi too.
Pelosi should be gone too. She's too old. You know what the thing with filibuster is? It's kind of like the nuclear tensions between America and Russia. It's a mutually agreed destruction because whoever's in the minority, could be Democrats or Republicans, they're going to be for the filibuster because it gives them power that they don't have. But what the problem is you got the majority, and this is democracy. You would think the majority should win, but now you have to have a special kind of a majority because you need the filibuster. And it wasn't enough to have the filibuster; they had to make the filibuster easier, where you just sign something and say, I filibustered. I didn't really stand up there and talk, but it's a filibuster. Just it's a gimme. The thing about it is, at some point, it's got to break. The Republicans don't want to get rid of the filibuster when they're in the minority because they're worried about what will happen if the Democrats get it. And the Democrats are worried uh, if the Republicans get majority. Well, you know what? That's how the fucking elections are. You got a Democrat and a Republican. You got a winner and a loser. If you don't like who won and who lost, fix it next time. And that's the same with Congress. Congress should have that same situation so we can get things done. Not only does it not get things done, it allows the minority to hide their opposition to something that might be popular that the Democrats would have or the
Yep.
Republicans would have. They want to game the system so they can stay safe and stay elected. And that's what the filibuster does. We need to get rid of it so we get some things done. And if you don't like what's getting done, next time around, 2 years later, change that shit.
It's making a career politician.
Yeah,
I mean, God, Biden's been in the Senate as long as I've been alive, 52 years or what,
yeah,
some close number like that. I don't know if it's that long,
yeah. No, it's
but
about that.
and then you have, who's that other old guy that they were going to get him to be involved with January 6th. He's in the Senate. I forget his name.
No, you talk. Yeah, Grassley, Chuck
Yeah,
Grassley,
it's like 93 or what,
and he's
87,
running,
93.
and he's running again.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there, and I'm like, God, I don't want to be working when I'm past 60, and that's like 8 years for me. God, I can't imagine that. I know it's different up there, but when it's got to be a power trip. But isn't it funny that Congress, makes it to where they don't have term limits, but the president does,
Right.
and I think the president should, because
Absolutely.
and it was good to see Biden on there, and the media, and they kept they were giving him a lot of love, especially Sonny and Joy. Yes, I know their names. I do watch The View. I'm enough in my sexuality to say I watch The View, especially when Sonny's on. Just saying. And and Anna Navarro, and they were talking about Joe, and they asked him point blank, "Well, do you think what do you think about Trump?" And he goes, "I would have beaten me if I was still running."
I
That's
agree. I agree. Would have.
that, and they were saying he don't care about democracy, and it's just like, I saw a funny meme. It was Joy and I guess Biden having a moment, and it says in Biden, he's got this shit looking grin on. It's like, when you don't have to fucking deal with the media very much longer, and then it's like, that's the truth, because I mean, it's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
still hear these people, oh, I don't know what she stands for, motherfucker. I mean, she's giving you all this stuff, and you know what Trump stands for. It's Project 2025.
Right.
Killing dogs with shovels, and taking away that 3 branches of government that make things with different views. They're like, you don't have, is it called was it an autocracy? Like a with like a one?
Autocracy.
Yeah.
Fascism, autocracy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, that's what he stands for. But I just don't know Kamala. Well, you fucking know Trump. And if Dick Cheney can vote for Kamala, your fucking ass can vote for her too.
I tell you what, I've said this before and I'll say this again. And if there's anybody in the audience, and I don't think there is, I'm sure, if at this stage today, it's September 27th, if you can sit across the table from me and say, I'm undecided as yet, I'll say you're a dumb motherfucker and you shouldn't even vote because you should know better than this. You're either a criminal or you like democracy. It's as simple as that. And if you are undecided at this point, you're full of shit. You're either stupid or corrupt and criminal. I'm tired of hearing people say, I'm undecided. Well, then you don't know fucking anything.
Yeah, I agree with you because I got friends that are MAGA, and it's not. I don't really hang out with them that much anymore, but I have to work with them and stuff. And then they're voting for Trump. I mean, they're. I mean, it's. I mean, they're. Kamala could give them $1,000 and they still vote for Trump. I mean, it's like Trump was handing out that $100 bill at the grocery store that was staged, and they said it was staged already. I mean, it's because you have people that won't vote Republican, you have people that won't vote Democrat.
Right.
And it's because of I know people that are like that, and there's a D by there. They just can't vote because I was like that too at one time. And even though I voted for Clinton and I went to Republican because it's what Rush Limbaugh told me, all Democrats bad, and they're hearing that shit. And why they're still listening to somebody like Hannity, I don't get. But I saw somebody in the putting up on the top 3 podcasts, and I think the number 1 is like Joe Rogan. Number 2 is that who's that guy that he's another guy that just he's that one that had a problem with Cardi B and her
wet pee. Dan Bongino?
Well, not him. I don't think he was that popular, but it's I forget his name. I see the guy. He talks like a there. And the third one was Megyn Kelly. And the 4th one was the Hawk 2 girl. And I was like, well, the Hawk 2 girl is probably the smartest one in the bunch because she doesn't like Trump. And I don't know who it was. He's a guy that's kind of the youngest one. He's on there a lot. And he's got that, I forget his name, but he's probably the most annoying because I can watch Joe Rogan. And
you're not talking about Ben Shapiro, are you?
Yeah, Ben Shapiro. It was Joe Rogan,
piece of shit.
Ben Shapiro, and Megyn Kelly. That's why this fucking country's so fucked up and people are voting for Trump is because those are the 3 most popular podcasts out there.
The 4 top podcasts you said, the Haktua girl is the only one worth listening to.
She's a smart one because she doesn't like Trump.
And she's just adorable. She had 15 minutes of fame, but she's capitalizing and just being a decent human being. Who knew?
Yeah. I don't know, man. There's a lot of ways I can go with that, Mike, but I probably shouldn't touch that one.
Well, you're not married. I am, so maybe I shouldn't touch it.
Well, I don't want to get either one of us in trouble, but it's like I can listen to Joe Rogan because he's a self-described idiot.
Yeah, he said that, and I agree with him.
But Joe Rogan has guests on there, and he does do both sides. He doesn't have an agenda. He's already been. He loved Obama. He loves Kamala. I mean, he thought Joe was slow. Well, hey, we all did.
Yeah.
But he's also a coward. When he said something about Trump's going to lose, he backed down because the UFC crowd's MAGA.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I can listen to him in times, and I don't totally, and I'm not one of those people that totally boycott somebody because because of their choices. Like, I don't get the thing with Taylor Swift. Yeah, she likes Kamala, big fucking deal. You know what I mean? Who cares? I mean, I listen to Kid Rock sometimes. I don't have to go out and drink beer with the guy. But, there's some country artists, you go in anything, you watch movies about actors, you watch anything, and they always had an agenda. I mean, hell, Henry Ford was one of the worst people in the world, and go back and do your research on that. I'm not saying it's okay to like that, but, the cancel culture that the left that we're so accused of doing, it's the right that does that. It's not the left.
Absolutely. I tell you what, Jace, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Jace from Texas joins us. He's down in San Antonio, right?
Yes, sir.
Love that town. Love the Riverwalk. I can't wait to get back there. Haven't been back there for a while. Before we move on to some other stuff that's going on that happened yesterday, I just want to bring up something. You brought up Joe Rogan and some of the other podcasts. And I'll tell you the one thing I don't like about Joe Rogan. He sold out. I mean, I don't blame him for taking big money from Spotify, and of course he works for UFC. But because he sits where he sits, and because he has these entanglements with people that are feeding him money, he's got to pull back from some things he would say. He can't piss off certain people. And that's the one thing I love about doing this show. I don't have a boss. I don't have family. I'll say whatever I want. You've said here just tonight, you said, yeah, I probably shouldn't go there. Fuck that. We go anywhere we want here. There is no limitations unless you're worried about somebody hearing it, thinking ill of you. But uh, I'm not big enough to cancel. And even if they tried, I don't care. Go ahead. You want to cancel me? You cancel me? I got extra time every night now. So good luck with that shit. Um, but I wanted to talk about Donald Trump had a rough day in court. A lengthy day in court. There were two hearings that happened yesterday. And I know you have some thoughts about this first one, and I want to talk about it because I've heard this before. Um, we're talking about the Letitia James lawsuit, where the state of New York was awarded $450 million. He's got some money in a bond right now. He's appealing this. Now, the evidence was pretty decisive and pretty damning against him. He lost that case pretty easily, and now he's appealing it. And I'm suggesting that his run on appeals as of late, he hasn't won an appeal in fucking how long? Now, you and some other people are saying, yeah, but go ahead, tell us the yeah, but.
Well, of course, here I am. I just, to ignore the mainstream media, but such a political junkie. I mean, I've been on the left, I've been on the right, I've been down the middle. I like to read up on stuff, and I don't. I have to. I have to like look and I have to read about stuff. Well, I've been reading, and I would. Then it's like every. I mean, and it hasn't necessarily been right or whatever, but I mean, everyone does have an agenda. Has been saying that the appellate judges looked very skeptical of what's happened, or that maybe the judge or whoever made the decision on the judgment may have exceeded what they call their power, which I don't get, is because the guy committed fraud, and if you get fraud, all bets should be off. But New York does have a history of I think it was New York overturning the Harvey Weinstein judgments, because when that happened, the Harvey Weinstein judgments, when they were overturned or knocked down or whatever it was, a lot of pundits were saying, well, that's probably what's going to happen to Trump. He's probably on his way to win this one. But what people also don't realize, they're freaking out about this and they get upset about this. And this is where you come in. He's into so much shit that this is just one roadblock. If it gets dismissed, it's not going to get dismissed. It may get, turned down a bit, but it's not a win for him. I mean, it's not like he's getting off. I mean, it's not the felony thing. I don't think that's going to get overturned. But the money thing, maybe, because it always seems like people like him that have money do get away with it. Weinstein, man, neither one of them are nowhere near what they were. And they still got this because they want to seem fair. I don't agree with it. I think, hey, the judge made his decision. Hey, you're stuck with it. Don't overturn it. But there's rumors that he may win this one.
Well, yeah, there's always rumors that Donald Trump is going to win. And when is the last time you've seen him win? He hasn't won in fucking years. Here's the thing. If you're talking about civil suits with Harvey Weinstein, the big difference here is these are women that were suing Harvey Weinstein. These are lawyers, maybe a little greedy, maybe going a little outside the boundaries. Do you really think Letitia James made any mistakes as AG of the state of New York? I think we're looking at a vastly different situation. I know there was one judge who said, well, it could be too much money. But here's the thing. He said that before he saw the evidence. And when the evidence is put in front of you and it's so obvious, and it obviously was pretty damning Uh, he may take another look at that. Uh, but is it going to the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court? Is that where it's going?
I think it's an appellate court that they
Okay,
can
but
take it
that's
down.
just one judge. There's multiple
I
judges
think
on
there's
these
like
appellate.
five judges on this one. I'm not
Right.
too sure about it.
Now, I don't think the appeal will work. They might say, well, it's too much, and that's relative. It's relative to how much Donald Trump fucking stole. It sounds like a lot of money, but if he stole that much or more, then it's commensurate with what he was being fined. You know, every time there's a little thing out there that says Donald Trump might win, the media will say it. Everybody jumps on board that and goes, oh my God, wring my hands and clutch my pearls. It's going to happen. But it rarely happens that way. You know, sometimes we'll get big, bad news. And to be perfectly honest with you, if he got that appeal to work on the Letitia James thing, not even really concerned about that because after the election, he's going to be broke anyway. He's going to be hemorrhaging money and he's going to have to
He's broke
lose all his
already.
property. Yeah, he's already broke. So, regardless of what happens there, it doesn't change Donald Trump's future. But I'll tell you, like I tell everybody, don't go running around looking for shit to worry about. Look at the positive things that are going to take Donald Trump down. Not everything will work, but
Yeah,
we
that's
only
what I
need one or two things to do it, and he's done.
yeah, that's what I think. Because when he got convicted of those 34 felonies, that was game over right there.
Yeah.
Because he can lose, he can win every other case, but you can't watch. I think my grandmother used to can't watch. You can't watch the stink off that kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know if I was talking about me or what, but I mean, he's got that's attached to him forever. So I mean, and it's funny down here. I'll read these comments, and there was this lady jogger that she was murdered, and it looked like it was by a homeless person.
Yeah.
And these people that were commenting on the news thing, and I know they're MAGA because they start talking about, well, that's what happens when you elect Democrats. You let felons out on the street, and it's like, do you not see? Trump's felonies are not any less than a felony is a felony. You know what I
I
mean? Yeah, it could be class A, B, or C or whatever, but it's still like fucking felony.
I heard a Trumplefuck once say, well, he's not a convict yet. He's not convicted yet until the appeals go through. No, sorry, bitch. He is a convict. He was convicted. Just like even though the Senate didn't kick him out of office, he still was impeached twice. This is where the Republicans think there's always a way they can weasel out. But there's no way to weasel out. He is a convict. That is a final decision by a jury. Now, if he can take it on appeal, he's not going to win the appeal. There's just too much evidence against him in this thing. But these people are always looking for an angle to excuse whatever failure Donald Trump has committed lately.
It's funny, Mike, when I always used to be such a big football fan, especially when the Cowboys were worth a damn. And I remember, you talking about, well, he's not a convict yet. I remember when the Cowboys won their last Super Bowl, it was in '96. And I remember the next year they got knocked off in the first round.
Yeah.
And I was so pissed off. And I think the Packers won the next one. I waited until they won that game because I could savor that championship. Well, they're not. We're still champions. That's how you sound. We're still champions. And hell, if I didn't know, 30 fucking years later, we haven't won a goddamn in a playoff game or two. But
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, oh, they're not convicts yet. Like you're just waiting for that last minute to like as champion. You know what I mean?
There's always an
That's how
angle.
desperate I was, and that's how bad MAGA looks. And it's like, it's it's sad, dude, because it's like, you talk about. I mean, you talk about guys that were losers in high school, like the nerds and stuff. Well, they grew up to run the fucking world. They have all the women and money they want.
Yeah.
It's the guy that was the big bully, the burnout after high school. I mean, that's what Trump is. I mean, he's that like they call it what, Biff and Back to the Future.
Yeah.
He's that bully
Yeah. He
that
is.
used to be great in high school, and Trump had his day, and I mean, but a lot of it wasn't he wasn't a made man like Mark Cuban, you
No.
know. He's like and Musk is like not man self made. You know what I mean? And it's like that's what they were asking Mark Cuban the other day, and you talk about somebody that's coming out, and I know you talked about it. I used to hate Mark Cuban. I thought he was just the biggest prick there was, because I'm from San Antonio, and Dallas, San Antonio, we're in the same thing, but we're not the same.
Right.
And the Spurs used to be good, and the Mavericks, used to be good, and well, Mavericks kind of still are. And I mean, that there was that big hatred because I hated him, and then I got to like, and I hear him talk and stuff, and it's like, I got away from that because Mark Cuban used to be a lot like Trump in the fact that he played that bad guy, that WWE
Right.
character,
Right.
but Mark Cuban was for real. And I heard you say something about Old Soul getting to like hear him talk and stuff. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to go to like a seminar and learn from somebody that actually did it. But he says, and I think he was on, was he on Neil Cavuto or somebody, one of the few smart people still on Fox, and they were talking about like, well, what about his ideas? And Mark Cuban said it's right. He goes, he doesn't have any ideas because he didn't make his own money. He was handed money. That's why he thinks tariffs work. Yeah,
Yeah.
tariffs work to a point, but it ends up it's like passing it on to the customer. I mean I
Yeah.
mean I'm no freaking Harvard graduate, but fuck, I know that shit, and I'm freaking Joe Sixpack back here in Texas.
Right.
I
Well, don't you find it funny that Mark Cuban is popping up all over the place? I think he might even be advising Kamala's team on the economy, which I think is a good thing. And don't get me wrong, I like Mark Cuban. He's obviously accomplished. He did it himself. I have no complaints about him. I've always kind of liked him because he does seem like a regular guy, and most billionaires don't behave like that. But have you noticed that? It's interesting. He's popping up everywhere. Does that mean he's going to play a part in the administration with Kamala? Or does that mean he's looking to run for president at some point down the road? Why now? Why is he all over the place? Is it just simply because he's rich and he's talking shit about Trump?
I don't know if I'm right or not, but I think he was pretty tight with Obama too. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
I
you're probably right. Yeah.
I know, but you have your billionaires too. I mean, you have your billionaires too that love him or hate him, Jerry Jones. I mean, he made his money in oil.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's so. I mean, you talk about take the car keys away from Grandpa. I mean, that's something to do with him
Yeah.
because I mean, he's got this big freaking company, but he's running it like Trump Tower.
Yeah.
But you have like you have the people that are like the Bob Crafts and Robert Crafts. You have the people that are like the Peter Holt, who you don't know much about him, but he owns Holt the Machinery, which owns the Spurs.
Oh,
And
okay.
you had people like Red McCombs that was from San Antonio that very well, owning the Vikings, and a lot of them were Republicans. And I just see these Republicans now that they say that Wall Street's getting kind of scared about Trump. Well, goddamn, about time. I mean, what else do you want Kamala and Joe to do? And the market's up. We bounced back from COVID better than anything. We're keeping these other third world countries alive because our economy is so good. The media should be all over that shit. And you don't think Kamala didn't have a hand in that? I
Yeah.
mean, I mean the
Absolutely.
fucking world owes Joe Biden the biggest fucking apology there is because they haven't shit about his is out there. I mean, he's threatening,
Yeah.
because they want to put a plant in Mexico. Republicans were big about putting shit down in Mexico. NAFTA was one of Bush's ideas. Clinton did it too.
Right.
I mean, you can't stay in one country. Yeah, they need to have jobs here, but you can't have the Monroe Doctrine where you just stay here. I think that's what it's called, and just say fuck the world. I mean, that's what Trump wants. That's why he wants to get rid of all these people because he wants to, and a lot of it is because he wants to freaking hype up the white race.
Well,
That's why he's with Russians because they look like us.
what you
You
have
know,
to understand about Donald Trump right now,
flailing.
he's in a panic and he's
Yeah.
flailing and he just says whatever comes to mind because he doesn't have enough. He's so nervous. He just says whatever and it comes off the top of his mouth, off the top of his head, out his mouth. And that's why he went to the eating pets thing. That was one of the most ridiculous mistakes he could have ever made in that debate. And Kamala did the right thing. She caused him to be unhinged, and then he starts just flapping his lips. And Donald Trump will always fuck himself up. And that thing with Springfield, Ohio, that's been devastating to the campaign. And then you have somebody like JD Vance who should know better, who does know better, and he keeps doubling down on it just
That's
to
his own
appease Donald Trump.
constituents.
Yeah,
That's his own people because these people are here legally. They can vote.
yeah,
And it's just the way, I mean, it's just the way he is and the way he was raised. It's like that royal family thing, even though I think the royal families, I don't think they're as low as the Trumps. But it's like Howard Stern said, Trump looks out at MAGA. He don't like MAGA.
no,
Because MAGA's not the Mark Cubans, the Elon Musk, the people with, the rich people with money. That's, honestly, Mike, MAGA is more like us, the middle class,
yeah.
probably lower than that. A lot of them are probably
Certainly
lower.
dumber. Certainly
Yeah,
dumber.
yeah, not as good looking either as us,
Oh,
but
fuck no. Not even close.
because, but you gotta, he does, I mean, if he doesn't like his own crowd that worship him, that's white and everything. I mean, what do you think about it? He has a woman of color out there. And it's like, he still can't get over the fact she worked at fucking McDonald's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, well, it's not on her resume. She didn't put that in there.
Why would somebody lie about that?
Well,
Why
I
would
remember,
somebody
yeah,
lie
she
about
fucking
that?
said it to. She said it to too. It's like, yeah, I fried, and Stephanie Rule. I know you're not a big fan of hers,
No, I'm not.
but I'll get to that after my point here about Stephanie Rule. The thing about Trump is that he never worked in McDonald's. I doubt he had a job in his life. And that's what the problem is. He doesn't understand what we go through, that we have to go without, that we have to buy we want the Bud Light, but we go for the Keystone Light because it's, a couple bucks cheaper. He don't live like us. He don't
No,
live that way.
no,
He
he
doesn't
doesn't get it.
realize that, hey, I'm going to skip a meal because, I can, look out for a family member or, give somebody, my last $20 till payday. And every time I hear the mainstream media say this shit about, people live paycheck to paycheck. Well, motherfucker, that's life.
Yeah.
That's the way a lot of us do it, and it's like, I tell people, man, I used to live paycheck to paycheck, but I've worked hard. Now I just live direct deposit, direct deposit.
Right.
I mean, it's like, he's not like us. And if he looks down at MAGA, his own race, with, the way they are, how the hell do you think he looks at a sophisticated woman like Kamala?
Right.
It's like, well, how can she be that way when, this person, whatever. I mean, he hates his race so much. Can you imagine what he thinks? I know what he thinks about, Tim. Tim's
Right.
okay. Tim's a nice guy. He said that, but he wouldn't say that about Kamala,
No.
and we both know, and I'm trying to draw it out. I'm not going to sit there, but if it, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a fucking duck.
Somebody had a description of Donald Trump, and I think it may be the most accurate description. And it's not a description you would give a politician or adult. But they broke it down to very simple terms. They said that Donald Trump is little more than a spoiled brat, a
Yeah.
brat child. You've dealt with brats in your life, and they just do whatever they fucking want to do, and they don't listen to anybody, and they get in trouble all the time, and then they lie about it. That's the behavior of a spoiled brat. And let's be honest, when has Donald Trump ever had to grow up? He's been having people like his dad hand him money, bailing him out of problems, being able to blame somebody else for his fuck ups. That's what his life has been. So now when he entered the arena regarding politics, he's a little over his head. He can't blame everybody all the time. I mean, if you listen to Donald Trump and anything going on, the question, if this were your brother or your child, you would say to him, doing what Donald Trump is saying, it was fixed, it was rigged, it was him, it wasn't me, I don't know him. What what you would say to them if it were a relative or a friend. So you're telling me that the rest of the world is wrong and little Donnie Trump is right. It's that ridiculous of a statement. And that is the essence of a brat. And that's what Donald Trump is. This is a brat summer, but it's a different thing for Donald Trump because he's a spoiled child brat and
I
he
hate to
hasn't grown up.
hate to admit that, but when I heard that whole Brat Summer, I didn't know what the fuck that was. I had to look
I
it
didn't
up.
either, but it just sounded cool when I said it. So that's
The
why I
only
did
thing
it.
I remember from growing up was Cruel Summer, but that was Bananarama. That was in the 80s. But
Yeah, I don't even remember that. I was in
I
my
want to talk
20s.
about. I know you did that thing about Stephanie Rule. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I know you're not a big fan of hers. I
No.
do like her. I always have.
Well, you're wrong, but go
I
ahead.
know. Well, I usually am, so I'll just continue. The whole world's wrong but me, Mike. You know that. Who do I
That's right.
sound?
That's right.
I alone can solve it. That wasn't a very good. That was like a more like an Elvis, Trump thing. And what's up with and I want to ask you something before I get on Stephanie rant. What is up with those rallies he does? When I see Kamala and I see Tim up there, hell, even when I see JD Vance, they're talking about policy kind of shit. JD Vance is crazy shit. But Trump starts talking about Hannibal Lecter. He starts talking about all this shit. And it's like, no wonder people leave. I mean, wouldn't you leave?
Well,
It's
when
like,
he was in Savannah, he said, "I gave you the largest tax hike in history." Does he
yeah,
not know what he said?
yeah, but who? I mean, who points that out? It's the Midas touch. It's people like you. It's not, in
Yeah.
MSNBC. And speaking of MSNBC, I disagree with you on Stephanie. I think if you watch her show, which you probably don't, she's very good. She's one of the best that's on MSNBC. She's not as good as Lawrence. Nobody's as good as Lawrence. And I would put Nicole up there too. And Nicole's a little too obsessed with Trump. It's everything's about Trump. But being a former Republican, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
She Stephanie was on Bill Maher last week, and I have been boycotting Bill Maher because of the Biden stuff. I couldn't stand him or Jon Stewart attacking Biden, and I was like, I'm not gonna fucking watch it. But Maher got his comments back and stuff, and the last couple of weeks have been really good. He had Stephanie Rule on there this last Friday, and she had this. It was like Bill Maher, and it was this guy from the New York Times. And this guy with the New York Times is what is wrong with the New York Times. And it's like and he was just talking about this. And Bill Maher was even like, well, goddamn, you're negative. And, Bill Maher is always negative. And the week before he had Al Franken on there, you know him really well from your
Yeah.
neck of the woods. And he was on there and he kept saying this about, I don't know this and this. And he goes, and Stephanie Rule, even grabbed his hand. I think you can see it on there. She goes, she's not running for state of Nirvana. She's running for the presidency. And the way she was on that and the way I've seen her on her show, I know that kind of the questions that when she got I know that helped get her the interview with Kamala, her being herself. But of course, management has to get involved. And some of these questions that they made her ask or put towards Kamala, I believe was a network and not so much MSNBC, but probably MSNBC. Because I think if she would have been able to speak on her own and not have a boss above her, like you said, I think it would have been better. I think she's a lot better journalist than people give her credit for it. I think that's why she got it. I mean, you compare her to somebody on the right like Hannity or or Nicole or Megyn Kelly. There's no thing. She's
The thing
leftist, but she's a lot more level-headed. But that's not saying much with those other two.
the thing about Stephanie Rule that bothers me, first of all, her background is in finance stuff. That's what her background is, not so much in news, but in finance. And do you remember who she replaced?
Um, wasn't Greta was
No,
it?
that's another weird bitch. But
She turned out to be weird, yeah.
yeah, she's weird.
Mm.
But she took over for Brian Williams, who I really liked.
Another. He kind of lost his. Brian Williams kind of lost his thing too, didn't he?
Well, he did for a while because he made some claim that he did something in some war-torn country, and it
Yeah.
turned out it was a lie.
Imagine,
But
imagine when
but
we used, that's a time when you used to hold people responsible for lying. I remember those
right.
days. Okay.
No, yeah, but now it's okay if you lie. But Brian Williams did a good job, and he was not a Trump fan, and I enjoyed watching him. Stephanie Rule just comes off too plastic to me. She's always got this kind of smarmy smirk on her face that kind of annoys me. Like, I'm gonna fucking kick your ass. Okay, well then do it. Then do it. Uh, and when she did the thing with Kamala, she was either appealing to bosses or she's just trying to make news because of the question she asked. I mean, she asked about, well, we had COVID too.
Yeah.
Stephanie, you've been doing news for a while. You know what the fuck is up. We had COVID as bad as it was because Donnie fucked up. So why are you blaming Kamala? Shut the fuck up.
I just think that's the NBC because I mean you look at Lester Holt. Lester Holt's usually pretty good too, but some of those interviews he had with Biden were pretty bad. And David Muir, and I think that's when the I think that's when like when I think that when she was on Bill Maher, she was more herself. And I think once you get in that NBC environment or that ABC environment, I think the suits come down and they mess shit up.
Well, and
I
that's
mean,
why I think I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again, see what you think. I think with all we've gone through with politics and all we've gone through with the media, these people coming out and telling the polls are so close. I can't wait till she wins big because I want to go on and I'm going to go after the media and say, how is it with all your resources you didn't know, but Jace and I did know sitting in our fucking living rooms for Christ's sake. Uh, but
yep.
but but the thing is they're misleading us all the time and they're not telling us everything. It's about promoting a fight for them. And I'm getting tired of that because they have an impact on politics. Journalists should not have an impact on politics, but they do, whether it be left side or right side. I personally think that people are going to get through this and they're going to go, what the fuck? We're already seeing it happen. They're losing viewers all the time. And you know where they're going? They're going to YouTube. They're going to social media. Not everybody on social media is going to give you the right information, but you have time to dig around and find somebody that you feel comfortable with, whether it be me or Chasing Oz or Midas Touch or whoever. But I think more people, as we get to be a younger nation, are going to be depending on social media or this type of thing, the podcast, as opposed to the mainstream media. They're in fucking trouble. They're losing viewers now, and it's going to get worse after this election.
I was talking to somebody today about that, and it's like with everything, all things must end. That's just the way of life.
Yeah.
We'll end one day, and the world won't be the same without both of us. I'll tell you that, and that I can tell you.
Absolutely.
The I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about Kamala, and I was saying something about, well, I mean, the men have fucking run this country since its inception, since
Into
you
the
know
ground.
the first one with the wooden teeth up to
Yeah.
the
George
last
Washington
guy with
with
the
the
last guy,
plastic hair.
yeah, with the plastic hair, and Joe Biden may go down as the last man, the last normalized, I guess, man, because you could have transgender presidents, and I think that's what scares the Republicans. Is because when these people always identify others by the outward appearance.
Right.
Like, who's that one? Isn't there a transgender? And I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I mean, I don't mean any
He's
disrespect
in
about.
Texas, for Christ's sake. Cut him a slack. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
but
somebody
I don't like to
transgendered in
be
the
that way.
house.
I have a real problem when people that I know that I like start saying shit. I was like, well, I mean, they pay taxes, they have rights too, and I think, we all have rights unless you pull a P. Diddy on somebody, I mean,
Yeah.
come on. And, but it's like, it shouldn't be their outward appearance. But we always judge. I mean, it's why the kids at school make fun of the disabled kid, or did I
Yeah.
say that? the special needs kids. Sorry. But I mean, people just have this, they have this tendency to bully. They have a tendency to overreact. And I'm guilty of that. And it's like, I've been fighting this cold, and it's just like anything kind of just set me off. And it's like, we got to do better than, we got to do better than, we got to be more accepting.
Absolutely.
But I think that's what scares the Republicans, is they're not accepting, because Trump didn't understand. Like, I think it was, I guess, his brother's kids married Trump. Her brother wrote a book about something, and it was like some kind of money he was giving them to keep, I think, one of his kids alive. I haven't read the book yet.
Yeah, he had a kid that was struggling.
And Trump was just like, well,
issues.
wouldn't it be better if he just died? I mean, it's like, no. I mean, it's like you have an old dog, and it's just like, well, why don't you just let it die? Like, no, I mean, that dog means something to me, and it's just, I don't feel the same way about somebody as somebody you do, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
something. Like, I don't like cats because I'm allergic to them, but I had them all my life growing up. But, when I read that story about that guy from, the Lincoln Project, not Lincoln Project, Project 2025, killing a dog with a shovel,
right,
and bragging about it. Well, Trump says that shit all the time about, how you treat him like a dog. He doesn't own a pet. The first president not to own a pet.
Here's the thing I don't understand. Kristi Noem claims she
Yes.
killed a dog in a gravel pit. The country was in an uproar. So this dumb fuck thinks, hey, that's a good idea. I'll do what she did. I killed a dog with a shovel. These people are fucking absolutely ignorant. They won't step back. They just double down, and it keeps getting worse for them. I mean, if for no other reason, these people are fucking stupid. They shouldn't be able to drive, let alone be politicians.
And I saw something today. We were talking about that Ted Cruz story. We haven't really talked about how he was trying to, he co-sponsored a bill, I think, with your rep,
Emmer?
Klobuchar, I guess.
Oh, Klobuchar. Okay.
And it was some kind of thing about fake porn, I guess.
Oh, yeah, the deep fakes.
And I have that real problem with, people loving my face so much they put it on,
Yeah, I get that a
muscular
lot
body, and it's like, God, I wish they just stopped that, because I know my face is great and stuff, but send me a check or two. No, not to make light of it. That's a joke. He wanted to pass this bill, and I think it was Booker, I guess, Cory Booker. Is he the one that's the buddies with? He's the
ball-headed African-American gentleman.
African-American gentleman. That he's buddies with Colin. And I guess it went like 99 said yay, and he's like said no. And he pissed Ted Cruz off. And he goes, I'm not going to give, and he was honest about it. Cory was honest with it. In an article, he said, no, I'm not going to give you a win. You want, you're trying to be bipartisan, before, right before, you weren't bipartisan the 6 other years, but the 7th year, right before an election, you want to be bipartisan. And Texas Monthly ran this article about him, just putting him in this light. And Texas Monthly is a good magazine. I like Texas Monthly because they focus both. But maybe if I didn't dislike Ted Cruz so much, I'd be okay with them trying to spotlight him. But we got to beat this guy. But it pissed him off. And he got done to him what he's been doing to other people, like
Absolutely.
when he shut down the government. So, and that's what Democrats are finally doing.
They're fighting back for once.
And who's the girl down here in Texas? Jackson. I mean, God. If she's not married, I'll offer my, hand in marriage. I'll stay home, take care of the kids, girl. You are a rock star, and you are what Texas needs.
Absolutely. And I think that's where Texas is headed, with younger people coming in.
One other story. The Republicans and on the Hill, and we already talked about that, but there's one other story that I wanted you to ask you about. They were trying to fuck with Social Security during this thing before the election, and it was Democrats and Republicans.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So I just want to leave this with you. When we get the Democrats in there and we win, and I'm, not worried about the other two, but we got to get the Senate. We got to hold them accountable. and we can't get fat and lazy because that's how democracies
I
die.
agree. I agree.
Came very close to it. The reason we're in this problem is because not enough people took Trump seriously. Well, in the last 2 elections they have, this one coming up, you don't think that they put that out there to rile folks up? Maybe there's some Democrats on there saying, "Hey, we're looking at your Social Security, and it doesn't need to be reformed." Evidently, that's what they tell us. That's what
Well,
the media tells us.
that's what they tells us, so I don't
Yeah,
believe it. You
but if
know,
they would if everybody would pay their taxes, Amazon, Microsoft, we
right.
wouldn't have this freaking problem. We wouldn't have this deficit that they freaking worry about only during the election year.
Well, here's the thing about Social Security. It doesn't show up in the budget. I don't know why it's a big deal to them. It's not in the budget. What's the one thing that happened that affected the budget? Well, Ronald Reagan borrowed $7 trillion from it and never fucking paid it back. I don't know why they have this hard on for Social Security. Yeah, it's going to get tougher. Let me just tell you this. Young people come to me and say, yeah, I'll probably never get Social Security. Well, I
You
tell you
should.
what, I tell you what, well, it'll go bust by then. I tell you what, when I was 19, 20 years old, that's what they were telling me. Now I'm 64 and I do get Social Security. So it's all scare tactics, it's all bullshit. Social Security has such an impact on this country, especially with as many baby boomers out there. You do anything to hurt Social Security, that's bigger than Roe v. Wade. It is political suicide. There may be people that try to do it, but I think that's an untouchable thing. I don't think anybody is going to try be successful. There will be people that try, but it won't be successful taking it down because it's too earth-shattering for this country.
I don't think they were trying to take it down, so to speak. I think they were just trying to fix it, which they've been trying forever. But you have these Republicans, Chip Roy, that are hell bent on getting rid of it
Well, good
because
luck with that
they're in
because
the.
you're going to be out of power next year in 3 months. So fuck them.
I actually Chip Roy will probably win his House again because he's
But he won't be in the majority.
it's weird about him is that the last time he ran against Wendy Davis, who ran against Greg Abbott back in the day. And I think I voted for Greg Abbott back then. Sorry. But this was back in the old days. But I wanted to vote for Wendy Davis because I was, goddamn, I owe her not to vote for, at least to vote for her. It is so weird the way they have the drawn here. He like Bull Verde is a little city that's like right by me. And there's like signs over there. And he's not my congressman. Tony Gonzalez is. And Tony Gonzalez, he just slips like here. And Tony Gonzalez goes all the way to like El Paso, or not El Paso, well, Lubbock, which is on the border. And it's like, I just missed Chip Roy, but I still got to see his faces around the neighborhood on election there. So I can't vote against the guy.
Yeah, well, like I say, he might get reelected, but he's not going to have a majority in the House. So good
Can
luck
you
with
imagine
that.
how crazy they're going to get when I think they may lose at least 30, 40 seats.
I think they could.
And it's funny. And when people talk about the House now, it's like, oh, the Republicans are going to lose the House. Duh. I mean, I think that if out of the 3 races, I think the House is going to flip.
Yeah, I do.
I mean,
I mean, it's close now, so it's not going to take much to get the
the one
majority
that
to
may
Democrats.
flip the other way is the Senate, but it's not going to be enough. And in 2 years, there'll be more people up for re-election, and there's going to be even more of that. They're going to be more of that. So we may have to wait 2 years to kind of bide our time to work with it. But that Republican Party's died out, and Trump's not going to run for 2028. Well, he ain't going to be freaking room temperature.
No, he's not going to be around.
He's either going to be in jail or whatever, or in Venezuela with Julio Chavez that he rearranged from the. Didn't he talk about him like
Yeah,
him and Hannibal Lecter will be the 3 amigos down there,
yeah,
raising
no,
gas.
no. Well, we're getting toward the end here, and I want to bring this up because I think it's very important. We were talking about the court cases or the hearings Donald Trump had. We talked about the civil suit from Letitia James and the appeal. But yesterday, Jack Smith filed a brief regarding his superseding indictments for the Washington D.C. case. And he filed a brief that was 180 pages, which is significant given the fact that they're normally about 30 to 40 pages. And the reason he did this is because it's packed full of evidence. He needs Judge Chutkan decides what's official and unofficial. So he's putting everything in it. And Donald Trump and his team did not want this. It's currently sealed. But what people are suggesting is the complete one is sealed, but there'll be a redacted one that may be released to the public. And frankly, Chutkan could say, "Well, release the real one to the public too." But this could be absolutely devastating to Donald Trump because of all the shit we know he did on January 6th. There's more, a lot more. There's testimony, probably from Mark Meadows. There's exhibits. This could get very ugly for Donald Trump and could be the October surprise if it comes out in October.
I don't think it matters. I think people that are going to vote for Trump are going to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
I think people are so, in a word, they're burned out on this because I don't think that there's everything that we've seen from Trump. I mean, everything we've seen from Trump, it hasn't moved the needle, and it won't move the needle for those people. I know these.
I agree.
And I don't think that there's any more. And I don't think, like you were talking about earlier, there's no undecided. You're going to vote for her.
Shouldn't be.
Or you're going to vote for him, or you're not going to vote, or you're definitely not going to vote for freaking, Jill Stein. Or it was so funny. Remember, there was a time, Mike, when we were all worried about those third party candidates. You were right, man. I mean, it's like JFK Jr. Or RFK Jr. Have you noticed that he's fighting to stay on the ballot on some states, but like trying to get off on the other one? No, right. Motherfucker. If you're not running, you're off all of them.
Everybody was
in Arizona. He's trying to stay on there, or have Jill Stein stay on there, or some.
Everybody was terrified of RFK Jr. and how he'd take votes away from Kamala or Joe Biden. I said, "Don't worry about this fucker. He's a weirdo. Nobody's going to vote for him, and if they do, it's going to be Republicans. It just wasn't something to be worried about. Now he's kind of fading away because he's not beneficial to Donald Trump, like Donald Trump thought he might be. Yet another bad decision by Donald Trump.
Mike, when I first saw you, and it was love at first sight when you were saying there was going to be no red wave. I was like, I like this guy. But man,
it helped that I was right.
But you've been right about a lot of shit, man. But just one thing I need you to work on for me, man.
Okay.
Those fucking lottery numbers, man. You're right about everything else. Just the fucking 6 in a row, bro. That's all I need, man.
I wish I could. I'm not a big gambler. My wife and I will frequently go out to a casino. I'll take a small amount of money and I'll gamble. And I'm a pretty conservative gambler because I just don't like giving people money.
I lose.
I usually break even or make a little money, but I never win big. My wife is a little more aggressive. So basically what happens is when I win, I basically bring us even. Because Cindy's a little more aggressive, but yeah, if I could get the lottery numbers, then I could get a big studio and a set and all that shit. I would fucking do it.
Man, you could have a studio B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, no shit. And I could hire. No, I wouldn't.
Hell, you hire me, dude. I'd move up there and get out of Texas.
Well, that's the one thing, and that's why I told you should do a podcast, because I think podcast. I'll tell you one thing else I was right about. 15, maybe 18 years ago, okay, I was working in radio, and I heard about this podcast thing. And it was interesting to me because I was a traffic reporter. I had no way of being creative or saying anything. And I told somebody, I said, you know what? This podcasting thing, as the internet grows and does all this stuff, podcasting will take the place of radio, maybe TV to a certain extent. And they of course laughed at me. And back then I did a few podcasts just because I wanted to do something. I don't know that I had many viewers, maybe some, but it was nothing back then. There was no way to monetize it. It was just a new thing. But at that moment, I said, podcasting is going to take the place of radio. And here we are 15, 18 years later doing this, people making a shitload of money doing it. Some people, not me, but some people are making a lot of money doing it. But more importantly than the money you can make from it, it's the impact. It's the impact you can make. I mean, the podcast is reaching a ton of people. TikToks is reaching a ton of people, and I'm just an old white guy sitting in my fucking living room talking to an old white guy sitting in his fucking bedroom. But people will get up tomorrow and turn this on and watch it, and presumably get some value out of it. This is this is the only savior for journalism or truth or facts, is when somebody who isn't controlled by a big entity of financial juggernaut can sit here and tell the truth. It's amazing to me that it's come to this, but thank God for it. Not just me, but everybody else that does this. Eric, yourself, Ed, anybody, old soul. That's why I like having guests here, because they bring different perspectives. They bring a different line of knowledge, because I'm not the smartest guy. I don't really know all that much. I just look at stuff and I use some psychology based on my history, and I kind of analyze it and say, okay, this is what's going on. This is how I think it will turn out, based on facts and not emotion and not bullshit. That's all I fucking do.
Well, I will admit something to you, sir. When I first started listening to you, and you were on there, and you get on there, and you'd have a few emails. I like that. Then you started having people on. It's like, I don't fucking like that. I like to hear
A
Mike
lot of
talk.
people didn't at first.
And, and then I kept listening. And I remember the letter you read from Old Soul when you talked about her and
Yeah.
stuff. And there was a few people that have come and gone, but you have your Wills now, your Erics now, your Garage George Def, who still needs to be on the damn show.
I agree. I agree.
You have Old So, you have I think you had Ed on a lot more back then.
Well, Ed is the one guy I went to initially because I knew him and I'd worked with him for so many years. I knew if he was going to be on the show, he was going to be good. So yeah, Ed was the one guy, and it was good for him because he was out of the business and he wanted to get back in and get his chops back. But people told me when I'll tell you this, when I first started having guests on, they got way less views than when it was just me. And I didn't understand that because it was a change and people didn't feel comfortable with it. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
I'm getting as much or maybe more sometimes with guests than when I'm by myself. And I'm cool with that. I'm fucking cool with that. I could never, I said, I should have a co-host. It would be easier. But how do you get somebody to do it as often as I do and then not have an ego a fucking about it? But as I've said before, having guests on like you, to me, is the same as when I was producing call-in talk shows, except I only have one. Or with
Yeah.
emails, I have a bunch of them. That's why I like doing the lives, because I got people just pounding shit at me, and it's easier to get the momentum up. Because with me, it's about momentum. I like
Oh, yeah,
doing
speaking of which, why didn't you ever show me your toes? Just kidding. Just kidding. I just
fucking weirdos out there.
I heard that and I was like, what the fuck is who's that guy that used to coach the Jets? Rex.
Yeah,
He had a
Rex.
real fetish for feet. It's like, is Rex on the TikTok or the YouTube live?
Well, a lot of them were trying to bait me and get me to say something, and it was just getting annoying. And I figured out how I can block people. And then I've got TJ the plumber and Gray Captain out there. They're shutting these motherfuckers down. And I used to get taken down, but I tell you what, my goal is always an hour. And the last several times I've been able to go an hour and a half, and then I'm just fucking tired. But they'll come in and say, Mike, the Trumplefucks are out in full force. I would wrap it up, and then I do. I'm not going to let them
Yeah, because the
take
Midas
me
Touch
down.
got taken down off TikTok because they got flooded by that. That shows you're going somewhere. They got restored, but I think a couple weeks ago they got hammered by, I guess, the Trumplefucks, and they were taken off TikTok. And
Yeah.
I think Will talked about that. Hey, also, like when you have like an Eric on there or like a Will, I mean, I'd like to maybe ask them to share their handle, because I mean I already follow Eric, but like when they're on here, maybe they can put their handle on there because I don't know,
Yeah, well,
just
we do try to do that. I do that with Eric, and Will's mentioned it too. It's what is it? Bender 38 US.
okay.
Bender or Binder 38 US.
Bender,
BINDER.
hardly know her. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah,
Yeah, it's getting
absolutely.
late.
It's getting late. We need to wrap up the show. Uh, Jace, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I needed the break from listening to myself. So you're a sight for sore eyes and a scratchy throat.
I got a face for radio.
So do I. That's why I spent all those years in radio. All those years in radio, whatever success I have, nobody came up to me and said, you should be on TV. Not one person said that to me.
That's
So,
funny.
so I stuck it out in radio, and as luck would have it, now I got my face out there to the public, and at this point, I just don't care. Fuck it.
I tell you, man, when I see you on there and you're from Studio B, and it's like, damn, and I envy him, even though it's going to be icy in a couple months.
Yeah.
I don't know if I envy that much to go up there.
October 15th, I got to put that boat back because it's going to get cold. And
Yeah.
every year when I take it back, I go across the bay and I take it to a marina, park it, and say, "You deal with it, put it up, do whatever you're going to do." But that last day, whether it's the 15th or the 20th, it's always like 50 degrees. The
Wow.
water's rough and it's cold as a motherfucker going on. Go, honey, you want to go with? No, don't want to go with. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be like this morning. It was like 64. I mean, I almost had to get my windbreaker out and my mufflers or whatever they call them, because it was a Texas cold front.
I'm not big on cold weather. I don't really like it. I was born and raised here, but I dislike it. That's why, we'll get down to Savannah as often as we can. Sometimes we go to Palm Springs, any place that's warm, at least for a short break to get out of this bullshit. So we'll see what happens. But
Sounds good.
anyway, thank you, Jace, for coming on. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for
It's
having
always a lively conversation. For those of you listening, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.